guys, and welcome to another review of a game. So about a week ago, I think about a week ago, by the time this video comes out, I went ahead and did a little bit of an overview slash review of SunnySide. That video, not gonna lie, did pretty well. I'm not gonna lie, that video did, pretty okay. And then I got thinking at 3 AM in the morning one night that I want to do a little bit more of these reviews. And I was trying to think of games that I could do a review of, something that hasn't really had many reviews, and something that is relatively. And obviously I wanted to review a game that I personally played myself, just so that my review makes a little bit more sense. So we are going to be doing a review of the farming simulator, SunnySide. Now, SunnySide is pretty much similar to every other farming simulator that I've played, and in my time, I've played many farming simulators, and they're some of my favorite games to play in my downtime, just so I can kind of dull my brain, and so I could just kind of focus on a simple game with simple game mechanics, and something that is very, I don't want to say repetitive, but for lack of a better word, repetitive. So I'm going to jump into the customization, and that is going to be the first stop on this wonderful review of SunnySide. So here we are in the create an avatar, I guess you could say, of SunnySide. Now it is a very simple, I guess you could say, minimalistic create a character. Now I am a sucker for all of the little like sliders and stuff that you can do, different mouths and all that type of stuff. I don't know. I like that simplisation, that simplistic avatar design when you like design avatars for different games. The hair choices in the thing are actually, pretty good. This game also does give off that very similar to Inzoi. Gives off kind of that, I guess you could say, almost. Now, I'm not saying that I love games that do that. It just makes it easier to see and visualize a character when you use a kind of a system like that to do it. But yeah, so you've got, you got a decent amount of hairstyles, all of which are customization, customization. Now it has a range of different hairstyles which are all very customable. You can give them different type colors, there's highlights, you can change how deep you want it to be. There's also a different, different sections where you can choose like eye colors and all of that type of stuff. That gives off, it lets you play with the hair, let's just say that. All the eyes are very simplified. This little thing up here is also just kind of like eyelashes, like how much, how long you want the eyelashes to be. And I have to admit that this character's wearing glasses at the moment. This game does actually give you that. The design of the eyelashes and stuff are, pretty decent. And also, it's good that a game like this does do eyelashes, because games where your character doesn't have eyelashes just really weird me out. It's kind of creepy, not gonna lie. And you got all the accessories here. They've got a glasses section. They've got 3 piercing slots. So that is ears, nose, and lip piercings. So you can have a character as a lip piercing. If you want to make a goth kid, I guess you could say, that is something that. But yeah, then there's also all these like different type of sliders. Now, one thing the choices are also very simplified, and you can do all these different types of things, and they're all customizable too. So now, one thing you should know about this game is that there is not really a gender specific character that you can make. You cannot just make like a male or a female, that type of thing. You can, but everything is done on a sliding scale. So you can be hyper-masculine, which means, I guess is this game's version of the male gender for a gameplay. And then you've also got the hyper-feminine, which gives you off that girl gender, I guess you could say. But what I do like about this game is it does have a neutral and a non-binary and a gender and gender fluid, meaning you can have a character that is kind of masculine but leans more towards the feminine side, or opposite thing with the female, lean towards the male side. So that I do like, that it does have that type of inclusivity, and that is something that I really do like. And it's come up with cool names, usernames, and it is something that, is good. Now, the reason why these gender expressions are like that, because this game does have romance, but we will touch on that in another soon. I'm going to move on to mainly just the gameplay mechanics and the world in general. So this is going to kind of be a little bit of a longer clip, you could say. Okay, so we are now in the game, and I wanted to play with one of the characters that I've played a decent amount of time. So, as you can see, I do have a lot of money. That's because I have been playing this game for a very long time. But that's neither here nor there. So, yes, in this game, you can ride bikes and a car, and you also can get yourself a scooter. Now, the one thing I have to admit about this game is that the art design of the world in general is beautiful. It's probably one of the best that I've seen in any other type of farming simulator game that I've ever played personally. It really gives you that feeling of this is a small Japanese, and you know, you got the flower fields there. It's it's one of those games that kind of just make me happy when I am playing, when I am the character riding on the bike, you know, all of that. And a lot of these buildings are interactive, and you can actually go into a lot of these buildings where you can meet different characters and all that type of stuff. And it's something that I very much enjoy. I'm not someone who likes shell things often enough. I understand for some things that shells need to be put in the game just to kind of give the game more of a livable, like it's a living area, if that makes sense. So it's just a very pretty game, and it is, I believe they use Unreal Engine, so that doesn't kind of explain graphics and everything that this game does offer in the way of graphics. Now, another thing that you guys might enjoy about a game like this is that we all know that farming simulators at times can kind of be a little bit repetitive or different, I guess you could say. And, you know, it is, and that's, I think, that a lot of farming simulators try to differentiate themselves from what have been shown in the past, I guess you could say, and what is done in the past. But yeah, but one of the things that I do like about this game, I'm just going to try and make sure I find the right area. One thing I do like about this game is this game actually does have battle mechanics. These are, you know, you can actually bloody play almost Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess you could say. And it is very interesting, and it's very different. It is something that I have to admit I really do enjoy about a game like this. There's also one other thing I do enjoy, so I'm just going to quickly show you guys what I mean by that. Don't question me going up this, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. This game has ragdoll mechanics. So what that means, if you don't know what ragdoll mechanics are, which if you don't know what ragdoll mechanics are, then I'm very much surprised, but it kind of gives you that idea to do things like that, okay? And you can give yourself some really funny, person is hungry. Really give you a character, some very interesting, style crashes, I guess you could say. I have come across some very funny ones that I've played with one of my other save and this save, and yeah. So I want to show you guys a little bit of the fighting mechanic, which kind of does fit into also the mining mechanic as well. So I'm going to go ahead and try and find a fight, and we'll go back to you guys. Okay, so one of the big things about this game, one of the main missions you could say, is helping this little flying cat person, Sparky, kind of people? I guess you could say. And it is one of those ones that you can do, you can just do it for as long as you want. And yes, so I want to show you guys a little bit of these fighting mechanics, and we're going to fight this Oni person. Now, the fighting mechanics are very simple. You got your tag, your guard, your battle pack, and escape, and glossary. Glossary is kind of just, everyone knows what glossary is. Battle Pack is kind of where you can add healing tonics and stuff. It is part of one of the many tabs that you can add, have your backpack that gives you, you know, things. But yeah, it's very much, you fight along with cards, and each of these cards are of a different element. So this one, we're going to use a fire one at the moment. It's probably gonna kill this dude. It didn't, which surprises me. But you kind of just use cards as your weapons. That's why I mean it gives you that kind of Yu-Gi-Oh aspect, you could say. And it's a very simplified fighting mechanic, and I love it about that. And it also all kind of low-key reminds me of Pokemon, with just the little burning side effects that they can have once you attack them with a certain move, that type of thing. You do get rewards with each fight, and these gems that you get are used to open some of the doorways that you come across within the game. Now, we're going to return to the last sleeping spot. Each of the missions or areas you come across, you have a different element to themselves. And it's very much, it does make the terrain a little bit tricky to think. Oh my god, that's my puppy. And you can also get dogs and cats in this game. This is my dog, Tiru. And I have a cat, but I kind of don't know where she's gone at the moment. Is she outside? Molly here. Here, Molly. Molly. Yeah, and they have sound effects, which are pretty cool. Now, I have to admit, I don't know if this is something that I've been doing, that I've done wrong somehow, but this game doesn't really give you the option to customize your pet's name. When I say that, I don't mean you can simply type in a name. And it's very much something like, there's choices. There's specific choices as to what your pet could be called. Again, I'm not sure if that is actually in the game, or if that's just me being stupid and not knowing how to do it. And I've played many hours of this game, so you would think I would know. But I want to show you kind of the farming mechanic. Now, the farming mechanic is, again, something that is very simple. You have your crops here, you can water them, all that fun stuff. Each of the stuff that you do on the farm are handled by tools, and most of these tools you get within the first half of the game, which does make it a lot easier, to say the least. And this game has actually a lot of customizationable things in regards to how you set up your farm, what you make your farm look like, how you go about it. Like, yeah, if that makes sense. So you can use different types of fences. I've unlocked a lot of the fences, but I stuck with the stick fences because when I was playing this save pretty regularly, I just found it easier to use the sticks to create the fences, because it was just something that was just so much easier to manually get, because you do have to do a lot of material gathering. Not all materials are available in shops, which is a bit of a bummer. But, you know, they do it to make the game a little bit harder to complete, I guess you could say. Now, this game does have a building mechanic in it, and I'm going to show you guys how it's done. So it is done by the mobile, and then you go on the drone. This drone allows you to use different things. I've got a lot of stuff. I'm pretty sure there's some blueprints that I haven't brought from the shop because I haven't thought that I needed them. But yeah, you do a lot of your setting up of stuff here. You do it this way, where you can place buildings, designs inside the house, furniture inside the house, and just kind of make area and set it up as much as you want. And this I do enjoy, but it does kind of get a little bit tricky at times. You have to kind of be in specific spots to be able to essentially get your whole farm. Otherwise, you get a situation like this where your drone says out of range, and it kind of just makes the screen go. Now, there are updates that you can do to the drone that does make it a little bit, so that things like that don't happen. And that is good. I guess it also does kind of give up that whole, makes it a little bit different in regards to other farming simulators. Now, I will admit, I do wish that this game did have more interior designs. Stuff that you can actually put into the houses, where gives you more choice. For more example, with what this game offers, there actually isn't much choice into what materials you can actually do and you put in to builds. That's just my opinion. I'm very used to games where you can put a lot of furniture into a house, where you can actually fully make a room, and all that. So that's kind of where I do have an issue with the game, is that I do wish that there was more interior design options that you could do, to kind of give your house more of a livable manner, that actually someone lives here. Now, this does have obviously bathroom stuff, but these are all decals. You can't use them. It'd be great if you could use them. I feel like that would be something that would just make the game more realistic, to say the least. And yeah, so I do wish that there was a lot of different types of customizations. Now I do admit the bed choices are rather good. You can get different bed choices. There's ceiling fans, there's lights, all that type of stuff. So you can really give your room a theme that you want, but like I said, it's a very minimalistic, or what they have in general, and that type of stuff. And yeah, so that's kind of what I think about the game, and like that aspect of the game. The animal aspect where you can shear your animals, milk cows, all of that is great. I am glad that you don't have to do that by hand, like quote unquote by hand, because a lot of the stuff that you do with the animals, like shearing, for example, these are done by the shearing trailer, which we can actually shear an animal, which I'm surprised we can. Oh, we can actually shear a lot of them, but you can actually, this is how the shearing mechanics work. Now you have to press keys to make the shearing, I guess, work, which I do like. I do like that it is actually, it does to a degree feel like you're actually doing it. And yeah, I just find it interesting that you can actually do things like that with the stuff that the animals that you get and all that type of stuff. But yeah, that was me shearing animals. You're welcome. Now, this game does have a skill tree. The skill tree is something that your character obviously goes to, up the skills, unlocks a bunch of stuff, and it does have a good range of choices. I'm not going to show you the skill tree, because I don't want this video to be long. But there is a skill tree that you go to. There is a shrine that you pray to, and that can kind of choose what type of skills you want, from farming, cooking, ranching, baking. It is very diverse in that aspect, so I do like that about the game. Another thing I like about the game is that the fishing mechanic, oh guys, the fishing mechanic is probably one of my more favorite things that this game does have. Purely because a lot of fishing mechanics in games can be difficult, and this one isn't that hard to learn. Essentially, you throw the rod in there, a little fish thing comes up, and you just reel it in. It tells you when to stop, and all of the fish are rather, to a degree, easier to get than, say, for a game like Stardew, where the fishing is a pain in the ass, if that makes sense. So, that is what I do like about the fishing mechanic. Now, we're going to move on to a mechanic that I do know a lot of people love about farming simulators, and that others, you know, could do without, and that is the romance thing. The romance game mechanic. Now, you can build your romance up by attending the festivals that they have, simply by talking to the people every day, or by gifting, which you can do by one of two reasons. One, at the post office, you can choose someone to send something to. Let's send something to Gabriel. Why not? You can type a message. You can choose what type of card you want. You can also give them a gift. We're just going to give this guy some amethyst. And you send it. Now, they will deliver, the game delivers this mechanic the next day. Sometimes you will get responses from the characters you have gifted. Other times, there is another thing about this game is that, I'm just gonna say it straight away, there's no marriage in this. There's no marriage, there's no, now, that personally is something that I'm not a big fan of, especially with how the story of SunnySide plays out further in as you get in with the game. Each character, there are a couple of characters, from some of the older characters to some of your dateable characters, that mention how they wish kids could, you know, be a part of the town, and there could be little kids running around, all that type of thing. There are some characters who actually mention, oh, when I was growing up, you know, there were so many kids around, and now the whole idea of that aspect of the reason why they didn't include it in this game is because, to kind of explain why towns such as these small towns are dying, how the old ways, I guess you could say, of towns especially in country like China, Japan, are all kind of falling and becoming minimalized because of what's happening purely with just kids growing up, not wanting to move back, people not settling in, blah, blah, that type of stuff. However, I'm not a big fan of the way that the game has approached that. I am someone who is a sucker for marriage and romance and kids in a farming simulator, and I do think the game is missing out a lot, like a lot, when it doesn't include that type of stuff, especially when it comes to finalizing, I guess, coming to the final ends of a character's romance arc. I'm not a big fan of it. So we're going to kind of low-key forgot who my character was dating. Who was it? Hideo? Yeah. Hideo. Yeah. Hideo. So Hideo is a character, we're just gonna do this so I can kind of show you guys. There is a dating mechanic. You can go on dates with your characters, and you can either go to stay within town to go for a date, so enjoy quality time with him, or you can go into the city. This game does let you travel to a city. Hirogashi, I think that's the name. I hope I'm not butchering it. Might not be my favorite thing ever, but it wasn't a bad time. Hang out with Fred. That is completely lied, my dude. You and this person are like an aunt. Just gonna give this guy some rubies. Okay, so yeah, you will also get characters who message you about wanting to hang out, wanting to do something. And these can be turned into friendly hangouts or romanceable hangouts. But yeah, now, oh god, she's man-spreading right now. But yeah, I do think that this game does miss out a lot when it comes to romance and marriage and kids. Now, from what I've read, that is because a lot of the romance has kind of been inspired by the game, the game series Persona. Now, I'm not 100% with what the Persona games are, but I am aware that it is kind of very much crime, mystery, and the characters are teenagers. So that's why I don't really agree with the fact that the devs, who've overall done an amazing job. I'm not here to back the devs or anything. And that was the way they approached it, because realistically, the Persona games, they're teenagers. It's a different type of genre of game in itself. And then you have a simple, beautiful game like this that is completely different. And to say that you're taking the idea of romance from a game where it's basically around teenagers, where, you know, marriage and kids aren't on a teenager's mind when it comes to, okay, it's raining, that's lovely. Well, we'll just return back to the last sleeping spot. So get out of the rain. But yeah, this game does have different, like, it rains, it storms. It's actually quite, I do like that about sit here on my balcony. But yeah, so like I was saying, I do think the devs missed out a lot when it came to dating and marriage. A lot of the romances, to me personally, feel not finished, and that they could be missing out on something. And, you know, this game is about essentially life back this town. It's one of the things that the characters always say to you, and to not include simple things like kids and marriage, that it to me, it kind of makes me feel like, well, where does that leave me with the game? Because you do all this hard work to build up your farm, to build up your area, to complete the cave missions, to do all that, or then you just stops, and then it just becomes repetitive. Now, I am aware that the game is somewhat still in development, and from what I know, they aren't going to be adding kids and marriage, which I really don't agree with at all. I understand that, you know, some things do take a little bit of time to do and cost, that I'm aware of. And I really do think the devs have done an amazing job with this game. The ambience, the weather, the character stories are great, and just how you build yourself up and how you unlock these new other farm areas you can do to move your farm to a different area, that type of stuff. I do find that I enjoy, and that stuff. But I do really think, after playing this game as many hours as I have, I really do think the game is missing out on stuff, and I do believe that. And a lot of the things that it does miss out on, I believe, personally, is the marriage and the kids aspect. Now, because several of the characters mention how they wish kids could be back in the town, or how they want kids. And, you know, I do think the game does miss out on this, because I do think you could do so much with that, adding that game mechanic, especially when you get to as far in the game as I pretty much have, where you can do different things that you can't really do early game. You can move the farms. These are one of the farms you can move to. I've chosen to kind of stay where I wanted to. But yeah. But there's the campgrounds here, which are a dateable area. They can go on a date. They can go on a date there with your characters. And if we scroll down, building here, this is where I don't agree with not wanting to add kids. This here is a school. Yes, there is a school in the game, but there's no kids that go there. My thoughts, exactly. Now, that's where I do think the game really does miss out on that, personally. And this is going to be one of those things that I will probably say that is probably going to be not controversial, but if you weren't going to add kids in the game at all, there's no point of having the school there. You could have made that another farmland you can purchase, or like they've done with areas like this where you can, you know, hunt to get trees and all that. They should have done that with that area too there. Where is it? They should have done that with this area here. If you weren't going to add kids and stuff, why tease people with having a school in it? I know the school in itself looks old, and there is references as to why the kids aren't in town anymore. But with how many characters state how they wish kids could come back, and how some of your dateable characters even talking about wanting kids, or not wanting kids. Like, I do think that's where the game, it's a real bummer that the game looks like they're not going to include that. I think it's a mistake. The one thing that people love about farming simulators is the progression of your family, the ability to have kids, the ability to get married, to have those really pretty ceremonies. And in a game like this, where it's so beautiful, imagine being able to marry one of the characters in the Hana field flowers, or on the beach. Like, yeah, that's just what really disappoints me about this game. Especially when you work so hard to get to where you want to be on your farm and in the game in general, that in a way, it kind of low-key feels like, what's the point? Because you work so hard to get all the materials, you work so hard to build your farm up, you work so hard to find out what these datables like, all that, and then for it to just end there, I'm not a big fan of that. And I really do hope that devs, who have overall done an amazing job, change their mind and do decide to add marriage and kids. Personally, I do think it'd be a great, and especially when you get late game, it would be a great idea. You know, being able to help build up the school, for example, or build up wedding venues, to be example. Like, for example, even if you do that later on in the game, I feel like would be a great addition to the game in general. Anyway, we're going to move on now to my final thoughts. Okay, so overall, SunnySide is a very different game where you can live your best Japanese small town village life. I do like it. The design, the ambience, the way your character moves and speaks, and just the weather in general, all really great. I think the devs have done an amazing job with the team, with what they've done. I think they've done an amazing job. And, you know, if you like farming simulators, give SunnySide a check. It is on Steam, and feel free to have your own opinions. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. However, now let's talk about my not so much big fans of. I'm not a big fan of the apparel, furniture, clothes, that type of stuff that you get within the game. I do wish that the game would include more. Because I'm more of that apparel stuff, because I think a lot of people just love decorating their character in awesome, cool outfits, but also weird and wonderful ones. So I do think that if they were to add more apparel, even more design features to the furniture, like add more furniture designs, like add a better TV, better clock, better rugs, all that type of stuff. If that was all to be included, and I think it would really make the game funner for people, especially those who like to take their time and make a house the way they want. It is a very slow-paced game. It does take time to get to where I am in the game, and I am pretty far on. But that would be that would be one of my suggestions. Another suggestion of mine would be adding marriage and kids. Personally, I think it would really add to the game, especially when you're someone who has worked so hard on the farm, the relationships, everything. I do think adding that aspect would really kind of round off what otherwise kind of feels unfinished when it comes to the romance storylines that you create with the characters that you choose to pursue. Now, there is probably a reason to do it, and that's fair enough. But as someone who has played many farming simulators and have been part of many Discords and spoken to many people who like farming simulators like myself, one of the key things that everyone loves is the ability to get married, the ability to have kids. Games like my time at Sandrock, Stardew Valley even, the new Tales Mysterio game, which I do know that they are thinking about adding kids, and how excited people are about that. Don't quote me on that. But those 3 games that I mentioned are just 3 of the many different farming simulator games that have done an amazing job with kids and marriage. And if the devs of this game decided to add that into the game, I mean, honestly, you guys might be major competition for other farming simulator games or farming simulator game series. So if that was to be added to your game, I feel like it will actually improve the overall gameplay, the overall storytelling, and everything. And I would really love to be able to dive back into the game and have that be an option, being able to marriage and have the kids and help build up the school. Now, I know I mentioned before that I'm not a big fan of shells. However, with a school that is that big, I can understand how going in there and decorating every tiny little thing would be difficult. So I think if the school was even just to be a shell that you see kids walk into, would be a great addition to the game. You could even add another character, like another romanceable, another teacher who comes later on. Even if doing the school and stuff is something that is done later on in the game, whether it be year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, that type of thing. I do think a lot of people would play the game to get to that point, or even have hints to that being a thing. As my female character has gotten to the point where more or less I can't say the name, I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, Hiroto's story is pretty much finished. He's one of those characters that talk about how he would love to continue his family legacy. And low-key, I feel like a lot of people would be happy to have that option. There are characters like Hiro, the tech store guy, the one who texted my character, who talk about not wanting kids. And that's perfectly fine. Even if there were some romanceables that didn't want kids, who rejected the idea of having kids, but still wanted to get married, I feel like would be a great opportunity. And what that would also do is minimize how, I'm trying to think of the correct way to say it. Minimize the work that would need to go into it. So say, for example, you go with Hiroto. Again, I don't know if I'm butchering the name or not. And you know, you have the kids with him. He could be maybe 1 out of 4 or 2 or 3 characters who want kids, who want the kids to grow up in the town, who want to pass on the family line, I guess you'd say. And then have characters like Hiro who say, well, they don't want kids. Is one, just realistic, because there are people in real life who do not want kids. And that is totally fine, and there is nothing wrong with that. But there are also people in real life who do want kids. And if you added those people into the game, or just changed a couple of the characters within the game already that kind of already mentioned how they wish kids are around or wanting kids, I feel like would be great. And I feel like that would really help the game improve and keep people playing it. And if the devs were to add that game mechanic, the marriage and the kids, to a game that is already as beautiful and well designed as SunnySide, you guys could really be a competitor for all these farming simulators that are coming out. And yes, I know that things like adding marriage and kids isn't as simple as just putting the code in. I know that stuff costs money. I know that it does that. I have friends that are coders in general who have modded games in the past, who have been working on mods, and I know that that stuff takes money and time and patience. I generally think a lot of people would be willing to wait for that. And even if there are people who play this game, who aren't really big fan of the marriage mechanic, well, the game's already really great for you. If that is to be implemented, you don't need to follow it. Your character could be the one who rejects having kids. Like, you know, that's just my opinions on what could be added to the game. As you could tell, I'm very passionate about marriage and kids in farming simulators. I love that game, and I know many other people do as well. So, yeah. Now, overall, would I recommend you guys get this game? Yes. If you like a game that is slow-paced, but yet beautiful, have a look at SunnySide. I will put the link to the Discord page down below, because I feel like it could be something that a lot of people would really like, or give it a try. It's great. Do I think the game could use improvement? Yes, I do think it could use improvement in the design of the furniture and choices you have of furniture and fences and all that. And marriage and kids. That's what I feel like the game is really missing out on. And if they were to add that, I feel like it would be a great decision on their behalf. If they don't add it, then okay, that's their decision. But I do think you'd be making a mistake, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, overall, guys, I'm going to give this game 8 out of 10 golden hose. Got to get that Minecraft reference in there. But, so yeah, I feel like if you like a slow-paced game, you're a farming simulator game, SunnySide is something 100% something for you to check out. Check out the page for Steam. Do I think they should add more to the game? Yes. And my main concerns would be adding furniture choices, clothes choices, and kids and marriage. They're some things that I feel like would really improve the game mechanic. If you're watching this and you hear that the game doesn't include that, maybe SunnySide isn't for you, and you're probably best to look at different games. For example, a game that does really well with the marriage and kid aspect, My Time at Sandrock. I've played the game, enjoy it. I enjoy how the kid actually grows up. So, if that's the type of farming, it is farming simulator, it's a little bit different, and, I mean, there's a bloody outlaw you can romance. I mean, who doesn't love a bad man? Who doesn't love a bad guy? But yeah, so I do highly recommend this game. If you like a slow-paced farming simulator game, this is a game for you. Do I think this game could use improvements? Yes. Improvements such as apparel, furniture choices, and marriage and kids. 4 things I feel like would add to the game, and that the devs should really consider doing, because I do think you're missing out on a lot, and that you may be also making a mistake, to put it bluntly. Though I am only being blunt to this because I love farming simulator games, and I know a lot of people love farming simulator games too. I mean, games such as Stardew Valley have become a really popular game. And that has kids and marriage in it. Just so you're aware. But, yeah, overall, SunnySide is a beautiful, slow-paced farming simulator game that I feel like you would really enjoy if you like that. And I would highly suggest checking out the Steam page. It'll be linked down below.